Chelsea Football Club got hit with 74 charges by the FA, but what does that mean? I read through everything so you don't have to. So when Todd Bowley bought the club in 2022, they had to do an audit of the club's finances for the last decade or something like that. They were just kind of looking through the books and they found a ton of discrepancies, a lot of numbers that didn't make sense, but they willingly offered that up to the FA because they realized that like, hey, there's something going on here, but we're actively like willing to figure out what this is, what this looks like. We're the new owners now. We don't want to get hit with those charges or with this weird stuff. If it ever comes to light, we want to stay clear out of it. This goes back to 2009. All right. This is how far it goes. And this involves Eden Hazard, Eto, and Willian, for example. So a lot of the stuff that's being alleged is that there was a lot of money that was being spent or kind of hidden in other practices or through agents. So technically what happened is that there's a lot of regulations of how and where money goes, right? If the player's too expensive and it's not in budget or there's other things going around, how do you spend and how do you give the money to the right people without being caught or without having to kind of pay fines or whatever the regulations are, right? They skirted all that. So they were able to get players that they probably shouldn't have been able to get. And because Roman Ibrahimovic has a lot of money, he was able to kind of just, figure out a way. So Roman Ibrahimovic had to sell Chelsea because of his ties to the Russian government. Okay. He made his money through gas and petroleum and all that kind of stuff. And he's an uber billionaire. But because of what happened in the Ukraine, England was just like, yeah, we don't want your money here and all that kind of stuff. Like you're gonna have to sell the club. So he reluctantly sold the club. But it's come to light that there was a lot of shady stuff that this club was doing, and Chelsea was the start of big money coming into English football, and that led way to your Manchester Cities, to your Newcastles, to these big billionaires buying up these clubs from maybe like shady practices. So the new Chelsea ownership doesn't want any problems. That's why they provided this information. They were being cooperative, so they feel like a part of whatever penalties come their way isn't going to be too heavy because they were not trying to hide this. But a lot of the penalties include really hefty fines, losing points, being demoted, maybe. I don't think any of this is going to happen, if I'm being honest. Like, I just don't think it's going to happen. What happened in Manchester City? They got in trouble, and like, what happened there? Nothing. So, this is just another thing of like shady football business practices.